Okay. Hello. This is Atsui Inu, and today I am going to be doing a trade newbies guide for POE2. And this is going to include how to use the trade site, how to actually facilitate a trade, as well as trade etiquette. So with that, let's jump right into it. To get to the trade site, and you can either click the link that I'll add to the description, or you can go to the pathofexile2.com website and click on this trade button. This is going to bring you to the trade website. And specifically, it's going to have POE2 standard here. In the future, this may be POE2 and then a league name. But at the moment, this is just standard since it's early access. I've prepped up a trade here, but I want to go over a few different things in terms of how to go about trading and how to use this website. First of all, I think it's important to note for any new players that the primary two currencies that people are using to trade in Path of Exile 2 are Exalted Orbs and Divine Orbs. And so if you've got Exalted Orbs, you can most likely use those to buy some lower tier items, or in bulk, if you've got like a couple hundred or something, to buy some really expensive items. You can use the currency exchange to convert your Exalted Orbs into Divine Orbs to use to trade for higher tier items. But effectively, most of the time, especially for your cases, you're most likely going to be using Exalted Orbs. In terms of important things to look out for on the trade website here, you'll notice that there are quite a few different tabs. If you are early on in the game, you're still leveling, you're only level 45 right now, you're going to want to use this right here, requirements level 45. Like you want to make sure that you buy something, you can actually use it. Maybe you're like, hey, I want to buy something that's really good, that's going to carry me through the game. I'm okay grinding for a few levels before I can equip it. Maybe you put 50 here. But in general, if you are super early game, still pushing story or just finishing up the story, you may want to pay attention to some of the level requirements, because a lot of the items that are up for sale are being listed for, people who are above level 80, for example. And so you may want to be extra careful for that. The other thing that you may want to keep an eye on is item level. Item level is something that can be useful for you to keep an eye on, because if you're using like a weapon that grants a skill or a spell or something, these item levels are also going to determine what the level of that skill is going to be. And so the highest level of that skill is level 18 right now, I believe, and you can search for breakpoints here. You can also look for armor, evasion, and energy shield. And so if you're looking for, let's just like hide these for a second here. If you're looking for a body armor and you're like, I'm a dexterity based character, I'm level 60. Actually, let's put that at the max. And I'm looking for the highest evasion body armor I can get. Well, you're going to want to put zeros at max for armor and energy shield. And you're going to look for evasion here. And maybe you have a minimum requirement here, like 600. We'll see what we can come up with. Well, great news. You can get it for extremely cheap, probably 1 Exalt. Now, maybe you're thinking, I want to know how I can get the most possible evasion rating that I can get. Well, you click this, and boom. You can get up to almost 2,000 evasion rating here. Now, here's the problem. This is going to cost you 6 divines, right? And that brings me to my next point, which is price limits. Price limits can help you budget accordingly to what you're able to spend. So you're like, hey, I want to buy out for at most 5 Exalted Orbs. Here we go. And see how many evasion we can get. Well, guess what? You can get close to 1,600 evasion rating at base. So evasion rating, looking really good on this item, but the resistances and defenses here are not looking so great. And that's where stat filters come into play. But before we get into stat filters, I want to caution you about something. There is something here called relative. And what that does is it's trying to calculate the exalted orb to divine orb ratio in the game and, try to price things accordingly on the trade site. This function is not working well right now. It's undervaluing divine orbs drastically. And so I do not recommend, especially as an early player, that you use the relative search. I always recommend that you budget based on exalts and, early mid-tier items that'll carry you through T15 maps. You can probably get for 5 exalts or under. So that's my personal recommendation to you. Now let's take a look at how to search for some different stats here. Stat filters mean that you can search for specific lines of stats on your items that you want this item to have. So you can say, hey, I really want something that definitely has life and definitely has cold res, because my cold res is looking a little low. And let's just say we want 60 life and 20 cold res. What are we gonna come up with here? Boom, 1 exalt, some decent evasion rating. Maybe we're like, okay, we've got a lot of options here, 14, 22 matched. Maybe let's, narrow the search down a little bit. Let's go with 1,000 evasion and higher. And here you go. You've got some really great options here. And you can even sort by different things. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna sort by evasion rating. I can get 1,035 evasion rating with these mods here for 2 exalts. I can drop that a tiny bit from 1,242 total evasion to 1,172. And get this one for 5 exalts. You can kind of play around with this and decide what you want. Maybe you're like, hey, I don't care so much as long as I'm above 1,000 total evasion. I want as much life as I can get. You can click on that line and it's going to sort for you. And you can see here for 1 exalt, I can get 38 cold res, 189 max life, and 1,046 evasion total. So, in essence, this is the basic of how to use the trade site. Now, there are some things that you can do to make your trade experience much better. What I'm going to show you here is an example for a ring. And maybe we're looking for a 5 exalt ring. And let's remove these mods here. And we're saying, hey, I want something that's going to give me mana regeneration rate and any res. And I want to see how much max res I can just fill up using my rings early game. Well, how do you know what mods can go on your rings? That's where another website I'm going to link in the description here is going to come in handy. It's called POE2DB. POE2DB basically, helps you identify what modifiers can roll on different items and help you prioritize your searches correctly. So you can go here to modifiers, click on modifiers, and we're going over here to jewelry, and we're going to click on rings. Now, this is going to give you a comprehensive list of all of the modifiers that can roll on a craftable ring. So you could say, hey, I'm a mana stacker. What mana can I get on a ring? Well, you can get up to 189 mana base on a ring. I like all LE reses. All elemental reses, you can get up to 16% rolled on a ring. Cast speed. Cast speed, I can get up to 24% increased cast speed on a ring. Great. These are explicit modifiers. We talked about those a little bit in one of my early videos. What about implicit modifiers? What can I get implicit on a ring? Well, we're gonna go to items, we're gonna click on items here, and then we're gonna look for rings right here. Rings item, there we go. I could have just did that. Here are the base rings, and you're gonna ignore this one. This one's a special ring, but you can see here, maximum mana, fire res, cold res, lightning, chaos resistance, all elemental resistances, and a special thing called a breach ring. I don't think you're going to be using a lot of the other ones early game. Maybe if you're a physical based character, you could look for iron rings. But overall, I think resistances are great to squish onto your rings, and you're probably going to be looking at ruby, sapphire, topaz, amethyst, and prismatic. So knowing that these are the different modifiers we can get on our rings, we are going to go back to the trade site for this ring search. We're saying, hey, I want mana regeneration rate, and mana regeneration rate can go up to 22% on a suffix, or there is no implicit for that. So we're going to remove the implicit here, and we're going to say I want at least 15. Okay. Next, we're going to look at weighted sum, and we want count 1, 15. Now, actually, maybe let's use a different example here. Let's go with maximum mana. I want maximum mana on this build. I can get maximum mana as a explicit roll on this ring up to 189, and we're probably going to look at like maybe 100 plus. Let's say just to be a little generous. And you can also get a ring with an implicit of 20 to 30 maximum mana. And so we're going to go here. We're going to look for maximum mana, and we're going to go for an implicit here. And this is going to be 20. And so as long as the item, what count does here is as long as the item has one of these two things, it will just check the box. It'll show up. If it doesn't have either of those things, it won't show up. That's how count works. The next thing that we can go over is weighted sum. Weighted sum basically means that it is going to tally up the total of based off of the weights that you enter here. And so you can see here, this column here is the weight. I've already pre-filled this out just to make this a little easier for us. What I've done here is created a weighted sum that is going to add up the total amount of reses on a ring. And that includes both the implicits from the fire, cold, lightning, chaos, and all elemental resistances we saw earlier. And it's the explicit modifiers, fire, cold, lightning, chaos, and all elemental reses. Now, in this example here, I've overweighted the chaos resistances because chaos resistance can be a little bit hard and expensive to get. So I'm seeing, maybe I can squeeze a little bit of extra chaos res here. It's extremely valuable. And then you've also noticed maybe that the all elemental reses here are listed as a weight of 3. Basically, that means every fire res, every 1 fire resistance granted by the item is equivalent, or every 3 fire resistance granted by the item is equivalent to 1 all elemental res. Because we're just going pure numbers here, right? We're going pure numbers, and we're saying, hey, all ele reses is granting 1 fire, 1 cold, 1 lightning, and this is the total of 3. So basically, I've mathed it out for you. You don't have to worry about it. You can adjust the chaos resistance if you don't care too much. You can remove it if you want, but let's actually remove this for this example and say we're just looking for the highest resistance ring you can possibly get for 5 exalts. Hit search. Now, you'll notice this has no reses on it. You might be thinking, what the hell? Why is this showing up? Well, it's because we haven't entered a minimum here. And that's okay, because what we wanted to do is sort. We want to click here, sum, and it's going to sort by the sum, the weighted sum. The weighted sum being this, 25 fire resistance plus 15 to all elemental resistances plus 14 to fire resistance. What is that going to get us? That's 15 times 3 plus 14 plus 25 is 84. And that is 84 resistances for 5 exalts. Maybe we're looking at, I've got 2 exalts. Well, guess what? You can still get a 74 res ring and a 72 resistance ring. And this is going to give you 30 fire res, all res, mana, and mana regeneration rate. Or this one, going to also give you evasion rating. So this is the basics of how to use a weighted sum to find early rings that are going to help you get through the campaign. And a ring like this, that kind of has all elemental resistances is going to beef you up all around. Whereas maybe a ring that is focused, like we saw earlier, the 5 Exalt ring over here, is going to be something better that you can maybe slap on against a fire-based boss and really get that survivability boost that you need to mitigate its damage. I'm also going to include the link to this search here, the search right here, that you can use to do your own searching. Just don't forget to adjust the buyout price and also to make any other stat adjustments that you might be looking for. But I will add that link in the description. Okay, I think it's worth noting that not everything works in the in terms of search in the game right now, and I'll provide an example here. You may notice here this item. I can't click on it to sort by it. And I also can't search for it. Small passive skills and radius also grant. You may notice that this is not something you can search by right now. Please note that the trade site is not fully completed in terms of its capabilities yet. So at the moment, there are things you cannot do on the search that you typically otherwise could. So if something doesn't work, you can either look into it, see if there's a different way to find what you're looking for, or you can ask the community for help. There may be a tricky way that you can find it. Okay. So with that, I'm going to take a pause here and we'll move on to how to trade as well as trade etiquette. Okay, let's talk about how to trade as well as trade etiquette. If you wanted to go about trading, what you would want to do on the website is quite simply, you would click this button right here, Direct Whisper, and that is automatically going to make your character in-game send a direct message to the player telling them that they want to purchase this item. Once you do that, the player may or may not respond. Sometimes they're in the middle of battling a tough boss, or sometimes they just got to step away and feed the kids or feed the dog, or spend time with their wife who's yelling at them. But it happens. Life happens. Don't spam people. Do not spam people. This is the #1 way to get you blocked and not get the item you're looking for. Do not invite them to a party. Don't do anything. Send them that DM, and if they don't respond, it's done. I mean, if you really, really need this item for your build, maybe after a couple of minutes of not responding, you can send them a whisper, send them one more message. But overall, I'd recommend to just send a message and leave it and call it there. If they do wish to trade, they will send you a party invite in game. You accept that party invite, then the trade is going to start moving. What you want to do is you're going to want to right click on in game on the top left of your screen on their portrait, and you're going to go to their hideout as the buyer. So the buyer is going to go to the seller's hideout. The other way you can do that is that there's like a little blue swirly button on the screen, and you can click on that to go to wherever they are. But generally, you go to their hideout, and in their hideout, you stand still, you wait until they trade request you. They trade request you, and they'll drop the item in the trade box. You also drop the currency that you agreed on in the trade box. And once you do that, you each have to hover over the items being traded to you. That's your opportunity to double check, make sure it's the right item. Humans make mistakes. People might give you the wrong item. It happens, but it's your chance to double check that. And once you do, you hit accept. You have to hover over every single item that's in the trade window in order to accept it. Once you are done doing that, you've accepted the trade, you can whisper them thank you, you can send them a funny meme or joke, and then you leave and you go back to your own hideout. You get out of their hideout. One thing to note about making a trade, it is okay to make an offer. Try to whisper them your offer before you accept their party invite, but be mindful that they may say no, especially if you give them a really lowball offer. So if I were to make an offer on this 5 exalted ring, I mean, maybe 3 exalts, but I would say more likely 4 exalts is a fair price. And so generally I would whisper them after hitting this button. I would right click on their name in game, hit whisper, and say, hey, would you be willing to do 4 exalts? Or offer, I'd like to make an offer for 4 exalts for this item, and see what they say. Sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no. And you're going to have to accept that if you're the type to make an offer. All right, I hope this video has been helpful and enlightening in how to get yourself trading in Path of Exile 2. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to drop a comment. But hopefully using this type of weighted search is going to be extremely helpful for you in your journey as a new player in progressing through Path of Exile 2. Good luck out there, and praise to you, I guess.